Now releasing all goblins.
This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. with free weekly content and free shipping on orders over $150. You can save 5% site-wide by using the promo code MTGMudsta. If you're looking for a direct way to help the channel, please consider joining my Patreon and becoming a member of the generic Goblin Gang. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game finds Max, Marie, and Felix once more joining me. I am playing my War Doctor and Clara deck, and it's just a straight Boros deck. I am keeping Sacred Peaks, Swiftfoot Boots, Felwar Stone, Surly Badgesaur, Mountain, Plains, and a Mistful Plains. Maxim wants everyone to know that he's French, as if it isn't obvious, and he's playing Sauron, le Seigneur des Anneaux, keeping an Arcane Signet, 2 Swamps, an Island, Jessica's Will, Apprentice Necromancer, and a Burnished Heart. Marie is playing the new Titania, and hopes to have a better game than the last one. She keeps Azusa Lost But Seeking, Oracle of Moldiah, Gauntlet of Power, 3 Forests, and a Conduit of Worlds. Last but not least, Felix is playing Pantlaza, keeping Mountain, Pugnacious Hammerskull, Path of Ancestry, a Plains, Regisaur Alpha, and 2 Forests. Felix wins the die roll and starts us off. He draws, playing a tap Myriad Landscape. I draw and play a tap Sacred Peaks. Max just plays a Swamp. Marie draws, plays a Forest, and passes. Felix has a Forest return and pays 2 for a Rampant Growth. I play a Mountain and cast Felwar Stone and pass. Max plays an Island and casts Arcane Signet, shipping the turn after that. Marie just plays a Forest and passes. Felix draws, plays a Plains, and then pays 2 to crack his Myriad Landscape. He then casts an Ixalis Lorekeeper and passes after that. I've got a Plains for turn and cast Swiftfoot Boots. I follow up with Scholar of New Horizons, which comes in with a +1/+1 counter, and I pass after that. Max draws and plays a Swamp, and then plays Jessica's Will, picking the Ritual mode. He then uses the mana to play and sacrifice his Burnished Heart, going to find 2 basics and passing. Marie's got a Forest return and casts Nissa, Resurgent Animist. Felix plays a Forest and then casts Soul Ring. He casts Pantlaza and chooses not to discover off of Pantlaza. He then casts a Pugnacious Hammerskull and chooses to discover off of this, getting a Trumpeting Carnosaur off the trigger. He then gets to discover 5 after that, and he hits a Progenitor's Icon, which, as it comes in, has him picking Dinosaur. With nothing else, he passes. I draw and play a Mistful Plains. I then cast Gamble and go to find a card and end up discarding Settle Wreckage. I then equip the Swiftfoot Boots to my Scholar and pass. Max draws and plays a Phyrexian Delver, reanimating his Burnished Heart as it comes in and losing 3. He passes after that. Marie's turn has her casting Kadama's Reach, and she goes to find 2 Forests, getting 1 for the field and 1 to her hand, and then plays the one she finds. She gets 2 green mana, and then reveals until she hits Greensleeves, putting to hand. She then taps 3 for Azusa, but has no other lands to play, and just has to pass. Felix draws and plays a Secluded Courtyard, naming Dinosaur. He then casts Regisaur Alpha and makes a 3/3 Dinosaur and discovers 4. This cascades into a Cultivate for even more ramp. Going to combat, Felix swings his commander, the Carnosaur, the Hammerskull, and the Dinosaur token at Max. Max chumps the Carnosaur with a Delver, but still takes the rest. With nothing else, Felix passes, and during his end step, I activate my Scholar, removing the counter, and go and find a Sacred Foundry. I draw and cast Ren's Resolve, exiling my top 2. I then cast Tectonic Reformation from exile, and then a Valiant Rescuer, and pass. Max draws, and once more sacrifices the Burnished Heart. He finds 2 basics, and once that's done, casts Blasphemous Act to wipe the board. With the now cleared board, he plays out an Apprentice Necromancer and passes to Marie. Marie draws and plays Gauntlet of Power, naming green. She then plays a Forest, and after that, passes. Felix plays a Mountain, and has enough mana to recast his commander. He gets to Discover, and he hits Rhythm of the Wild, and passes. Cast Winds of Abandon from exile, and target Pantlaza. And Felix responds by activating Progenitor icon to flashing Kinjali's Sunwing. He then discovers 2, and gets to cast Path to Exile, and he targets Max's Apprentice Necromancer. I then play a Dark Apostle, which comes in tapped from the Sunwing, and I pass. Max draws and plays a Mountain. He's ramped enough so he can cast Sauron, and he mills 5 off the on-cast trigger. He then reanimates a Coercive Recruiter. He gets to make a 5/5 army as well, and the Recruiter entering then steals the Sunwing. Max hits Felix for 3 with the Sunwing, and passes. Marie draws and plays her commander, Titania. She then plays Vorinclex, and goes to find 2 forests to put to hand, and then plays one of them, making a 5/3 elemental from Titania. She passes after that. Felix draws and recasts his commander. He discovers, hitting Nylea, God of the Hunt. He then passes after that. I draw and activate Dark Apostle, and then cast Rest in Peace. This has me cascading into Path to Exile, which I use to exile the Sunwing. Felix responds by flashing in Hulking Raptor to get another Discover trigger, and he reveals until he hits a Topiary Stomper from it. With that done, I pass turn. Max draws and plays an Archpriest of Shadows, backing up on Sauron. He then decides not to attack though, and passes. Marie draws, playing Oracle of Moldiah. She plays a Forest off the top, and makes a 5/3 elemental token. She then plays a Forest from hand, and makes another one, and then casts Nissa, Ascended Animist, for the full cost. She then plays out Multani, and once that's out, upticks Nissa to make an 8/8 elemental token, passing to Felix after that. Felix draws and goes to combat. He swings all out at Marie with his dinosaurs, and she blocks Pantlaza with 2 5/3s and an 8/8 token. She declares no blocks on the rest, and Felix then uses his mana to pump the Topiary Stomper with Nylea for a ton of damage. I respond after the last activation, and use Swords to Plowshares on the Stomper to save Marie. This has Felix jumping up to 50 life, and Marie dropping to 22. Felix also takes out 2 of the elementals with Pantlaza, and with nothing else, passes. I draw and cast the War Doctor, and then equip him with the Swiftfoot Boots, and pass. Max has an island for turn, and he goes to combat, swinging Sauron at Marie. She blocks with Multani, and they trade. In his post-combat main phase, Max then recasts Sauron again, amassing 5 more counters onto his Orc army, and mills 5 into exile thanks to Rest in Peace. This has the War Doctor gaining a counter, and he then follows up by casting Mana Crypt, and then casts Chaos Warp and targets Nissa. Marie shuffles it in, and flips to reveal Revive on the top, and Max then passes. Marie draws and plays a land off the top, making another 5/3 elemental token. She then plays a Green Sleeves, and then another Forest, making a 5/3 and a 3/3 Badger. She follows up with a Conduit of Worlds, and then goes to combat. She repays Felix in kind, swinging her entire board at him, and he drops to 18, and she passes after that. Felix has a tapped Game Trail coming in, and then recasts his commander, discovering off of it, and revealing until he hits a Curious Allosaur. He follows up with Kinjali's Collar, and moves to combat. He swings the Hulking Raptor at me, and I declare no blocks. He dumps the rest of his mana into Nylea, pumping it up, and I still take the hit. Felix then passes to me. I draw, and play Solemn Simulacrum, going to find a mountain, and putting it into play tapped. Max wins his Mana Crypt flip, and draws. He plays Disciple of Bolas, sacrificing Sauron to gain 9 and draw 9. He then plays a Swamp, and then casts Chain Reaction, wiping the board. After that, he casts Grey Merchant of Asphodel, draining everyone for 2, and passing. Marie draws, replays Titania, and passes. Felix's turn has him casting Up the Beanstalk, drawing a card when it enters. He then recasts his commander. and he discovers until he hits Ephemerate, which flickers his commander again, and he discovers once more. This time around, he reveals until Arcane Signet. Felix then casts the original Tally, and gives both of his creatures haste with the Rhythm of the Wild triggers, and he moves to combat. He swings a Tally and his commander at max, and the Tally trigger gives him Galta and Mavrin, a Fog, and 2 lands. He only casts Galta and Mavrin, and Max declares no blocks. This has Felix pumping Pantlaza with Nylea for some extra commander damage, and he then passes turn. I draw and play Lae'zel, and then a Surly Badgesaur, and pass to Max. Max loses his Crypt Flip, taking 3 and drawing. He plays a Swamp, and then casts Shouldered Whispering One. He follows up with a Diluvian Primordial, which sadly does nothing thanks to the Rest in Peace, and passes after that. Marie sacrifices Titania to Shouldered's trigger on her upkeep, and draws. She then recasts Titania again, and passes to Felix. Felix sacrifices his commander to Shouldered, and chooses not to rebound Ephemerate, and draws for turn. He plays a Canopy Vista, and once more recasts Pantlaza, this time discovering until he hits an Atzik Seer. He follows that up with Palani's Hatcher, making 2 egg tokens, and then plays Xenagos, God of Revels. Going to combat, Felix gives the Xenagos trigger to Galta and Mavrin, and swings it and Natalia at max, and gets to make a massive dinosaur token with Galta and Mavrin. He's also sacrificed an egg token to make a 3/3 dinosaur, and swings Pantlaza, the Hatcher, and the 3/3 at me. Once more Tally triggers, and he flips into a Hoarding Dracosaur, Recruiter of the Guard, and Tamio's Safekeeping. He casts everything but Max's card, and we then go to damage. I'm lucky enough to block some of it and soak up some of the damage, but Max isn't and gets taken out. With nothing else, Felix passes. I draw and cycle a Mountain, drawing a card. I then cycle Furycom Snarl, and then cycle a War Room to try and dig for an answer. The best I can find at this point is Wand of Wonder, which I cast and pass. Marie's also looking for something, and she casts Shamanic Revelation as a redraw, drawing 1 card and then playing a Forest. This makes her a 5/3 elemental, and she passes after that. Felix exiles his top 2 cards to his Dracosaur, making a treasure and a dinosaur, and then draws for turn. He plays Savage Order, sacrificing the dinosaur token to go and find Zakama. With Zakama coming in, he gets to discover from his commander, and he casts Generous Gift, destroying Titania. Marie gets a 3/3 from it, and Felix then plays an Apex Altasaur. Knowing when we're beat, Marie and I declare Felix the winner and move on to the next game. Game review time. This game was 1 hour, 28 minutes, and 36 seconds. And that's a really long time of unfortunately not doing very much. In your experience, would you have done what I did with the Rest in Peace? It completely shut down Max and Marie, but unfortunately Felix wasn't hindered by it at all. It works really well with the War Doctor, but I wasn't exactly going to be attacking into Felix since all of his giant dinosaurs were going to kill it anyway, so in hindsight, it's kind of hard to justify casting it. So much of Marie's deck involves playing lands from her graveyard, so that Rest in Peace really shut down her deck. She did have that awesome Nissa Planeswalker, but unfortunately that kind of telegraphs your next turn, and as a result, everyone ganged up on her to take her out. I can't believe how many times that Max was able to cast, reanimate, and activate his Burnished Heart. It was pretty sweet. Unfortunately, like I said before, his deck got shut off by Rest in Peace, since Sauron really wants to bring back a creature for free. Paying as much mana as he did for his commander to only get a 5/5 Orc Army token just is not what you want to be doing. Holy cow, Pantlaza is good. I know when I got to spoil the deck, it was very, very powerful, but seeing it in action was crazy. The fact that he's able to decide when to discover seems massive, and the amount of value he got from the dinosaurs was just huge. His first discover got him something like 13 power worth of dinosaurs on the board for very little mana. That seems so good. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, Cool Stuff Inc., Multizone, Original Magic Art, and Alter Sleeves. But it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.